Memorial Day creates some great ratings for the UFLs. We've got some excellent stuff to talk about on some wonderful viewership numbers, plus some very fascinating football conversation on the interwebs this week. It's all on episode 106 of the UFL Podcast, and it starts right now.
1, 2, 3.
To the UFL Podcast. I am Zach Kyleman hosting this week, and boy, oh boy, we are glad to have you in for what should be a fun episode of the show with some fascinating stuff to talk about, more related to as we're recording today. So we'll definitely dive in and kind of have some thoughts on these bits and knobs and nooks and crannies, whatever the hell you want to call it. But before I get into that, let me dive over to the other side of the screen, or in your ears, the part of the microphone setup. It is the ref himself, my friend, joining me on Victory Thursday as we are releasing it, or Victory, whatever you want to call it. Look at him riding high, beating the number one team in the league by many of our metrics. It's good stuff, ain't it?
Is anyone surprised? Is anyone surprised? And not to mention, perfect week, Zachy boy. Not one win, not two, not three, 4 wins in my pick'em, Zachy boy.
Wow.
That's coming off, and just so everyone knows.
Wow. Okay.
I'm polar to polar, because the week before, 0-4. Don't call it a comeback, just call it I'm getting lucky. I don't know what it is. And you know what helped is I changed my pick last week on the show. Originally I was going to pick the Panthers, and you know what? I said, no. Birmingham's going to win. Houston's going to be the enforcers of justice, and all is right in the world. And now we head into week 10. Houston has a chance to go 500, which at this point, I'll take it. I'll take 500.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you know what? Props to you getting the dub. I know it's, I will be that DC guy and say, yes, Caveat Mockdeleo did start second half, but it was a competitive second half. Had to fight for every tooth, inch, and nail at that game. And, come out with a dub and looking closer to possibly finishing 500. Just got to get through my squad for some some rep points, not to get swept again, my friend. That's the only thing. So we'll see if that.
I think your team has to get through mine. But anyway, we'll get to that at the end of the episode.
It's a home game. It's the last home game of the year. I'm expecting 12K in attendance, by the way. Fingers crossed. But we'll find out. But yeah, good Memorial Day weekend. And honestly, while we're kicking things off, going to be some great discussion on how this game played into what was arguably, and from the statistics wise too, the best weekend of ratings so far for the league this year, which honestly for a year that's been, it's nice to see a bit of a sweet spot coming towards the end of the year. We'll talk a little bit more on that, but first, really quick, got some of our things to walk through here before we dive into the episode fully. First things first, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Click that button below. We're doing some excellent shows right now, and we are not stopping this train anytime soon. Click the subscribe button. Click the bell. It builds morale, not only for you, but for us too here at PFN and the rest of the ATU crew as well. You also get to subscribe and get notifications when we go live on ATU 6 p.m. Eastern every Monday during the season, and off seasons, plenty of shows too. And you don't miss an episode of this amazing show of the UFL Podcast. What are you doing? Make sure you subscribe. Also, by the way, help out the show. Code USFL Newsroom on RoyalRetros.com gets you 10% off your purchase at Royal Retros, the place to find your spring football affair, and an official third-party merchant of the UFL and AF1. You don't want to miss out on getting some official league gear from Royal Retros. Great stuff. Great items they've made for years. Check them out and save a little bit and help us at the show. And finally, the road to Summer Stock 4. We're kicking things off. It's coming over the horizon. We were going to talk a little bit more about it today as well, but we are under 2 weeks away from hitting the road, hitting the ground running. Actually, when the show drops, it's going to be less than 2 weeks away. It's kind of crazy. It's sneaking up on us really fast.
It is fast.
The plans are coming together. The setup, impeccable. The decisions we'll have with the editing, remarkable. It's going to be a wonderful time.
I'm looking forward to it, Zachy boy. I'm looking forward to all sorts of stops and little trinkets that we'll find along the way. And we're going to record this thing. We're going to put it out. It is going to be a feat that I hope everybody tunes into. Again, this is why you need to click the bell. It builds morale. It lets you know when we go live. It lets you know when new episodes drop. It'll let you know when summer stock, the road to the UFL championship kicks off. And I mean, you're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be something completely different. And if you like just old timey stuff, tell your grandpa, tell your papa, tell whoever you want, because we're doing it. We're trying it. And we're going to be having some fun on the road, which I can just imagine all the stuff that we're going to just talk about. Well, we got 12, 14, 15 hours on the car. So we got plenty of time to talk about stuff. I don't even know how long summer stock's going to be. It could be a 2-hour event. It could be.
Could be.
It may be more.
Never know.
We'll see. We will see. So, no, I'm looking forward. I can't believe it is 2 weeks away. I was just realizing, so I'm a dummy. I'm a dim dummy. The Switch is out a week from now. I was thinking, okay, it's out on the 5th. For some reason, I was thinking it was out on Friday and the 5th going into midnight, Friday the 6th at release. No, it releases June 5th.
Yeah.
Which means Wednesday night going into Thursday. So I had that epiphany earlier. So we record on Wednesday. So I was like, oh my God, it's a week away. It's a week away from I'm going to be playing some Switch 2. And we'll have that Switch 2 on the road trip as well. So we can play some Mario Kart. I don't know if there's going to be any other games that are worth a damn for the release day. But I know Mario Kart will be good. And the good news is it works with all the old peripherals. So I have plenty of controllers.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, if you're already going to have it, I want to check that out. So,
yeah,
we'll definitely be gonna be a little bit of footage, see who wins, maybe a mini tournament or something. I'm stoked for that. And just I don't know, you and I have talked about the camera mounts. I want to spoil the whole surprise. It's great. It's great. We got more stuff I got to get acquired before we get in. That's gonna be good. I'm excited for it. You know what I was excited for this weekend, by the way, and I know you've been enjoying it too. Memorial Day weekend, very, very good time of year. Get together with friends and family. I got to go back home to Indiana, spend a little time that way. I know your folks are out and about right now over in Texas with you, enjoying some time. And before I get into my stuff, what did you do this weekend? You went to the game, right? Good.
I didn't go to the game.
No, I thought you were debating on that.
I wanted to, but I couldn't drag. I couldn't drag them out in that heat. I just couldn't do it. It was hot. And we're talking like really hot that weekend. Yeah. It's unfortunate because I got to miss the last home game of the year. I know there's people freaking out that the Roughnecks are relocating. They're not doing it. I'm telling you, the Roughnecks are playing here next year. Mark my words. Mark ref's words.
Okay.
The refs will be here next week. Now, I will say, I have a couple calls next week to reaffirm my stance on that. But I still stand true that the Roughnecks are going to be playing in Houston next year. The year after that, I don't flipping know. But next year for sure. Well, I mean they're taking my money for season tickets.
To be frank, I mean, look, you're wanting to make sure that you are going to be around. And I know there's a lot of talk right now on, the end of the year and kind of what's the league's moves into the off season. Because there's been some new rumors swirling recently and whatnot about, we've been hearing Tom Brady stuff pop up again. We've been hearing about locations here and there and whatnot, and I get it. And I would like to see, and I hope you get a chance and we continue to see them commit to a market or get better with this market if they can. But, it is that time of year and, they hopefully want to keep growing. Honestly, I think, what, I was going to jump into a different discussion. Let's do this because we're already diving in. Why not? Because today we're on X and going around and doing our business and whatnot. And it's a pretty normal day on, UFL Twitter and whatnot and football Twitter. And all of a sudden, Garage Beer, which Garage Beer is a company that is owned by the Kelsey brothers. They are they're more of a startup beer company. They kind of like fit that like barstool bro crowd type or college bro crowd types where it's like laid back. They announced that they are acquiring ownership in a professional football organization. Didn't specify which. It wasn't a joke article. I double checked this. This is a real thing they're getting into. And they didn't specify. They said, we will announce at a later date. where this is. And it got the entire football community, especially the UFL community, up in a tizzy. Oh my God, Columbus has been a rumor for so long now. And this was the perfect time to start a big speculation zone on the future of the UFL and where and what it's going to be. And we'll hear more about this, I think, as this offseason goes on, because it's a crucial year and they keep talking expansion. But this one got everyone in a tizzy because if you look up Garage Beer, their headquarters is Columbus, Ohio. If any of you have been following the scene, and I'll let you kick off with this, Stefan, Columbus keeps on being dragged up as this is a name to watch out for. This is a market that they should be keeping an eye on. And it's fascinating that this is coming up right now. Now, I understand, I don't believe it's that, from what I can tell.
The UFL?
Yeah, that I can tell. But I'm who's to say things will change? You know, some people tell me things they do, and then it changes on a dime because they want to keep it to the coast of the vest. But I digress. You know,
now,
it
I will
is a Columbus-based company with 2 celebrity owners.
So I'll say this. It's not, I don't think it's the UFL. Could it be? Maybe things change. Maybe there's conversations that happen behind the scenes. Maybe this and that, blah, 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 whatever. I don't think it's the UFL. I think, and quite frankly, I think the UFL, when they're looking at ownership groups, although there are some sports figures tied behind the brand, I think they're going to want, I don't know. So with something like a Garage Beer, it's almost like a shell, not a how do I say this without offending somebody?
Well, I know what you're doing. You're saying it's the corporate entity, but it doesn't immediately represent the brothers themselves.
Yes. Exactly. Thank you. Because that's what I was trying to say, because what I was about to say was not what I meant to say, and it would have sounded worse. Anyway, I don't think that's the case. Now, I will go out and say this. I would love to see them partner with something like AF1, because similar, we've seen Hulk Hogan and the Real American Beer sponsor AF1. I think there's rumors, or maybe it's hopeful rumors. Maybe it's just people hoping we see Hulk Hogan and Real American Beer kind of buy into the AF1. I would love to see something like Garage Beer. I don't know if they're targeting AF1 or even arena football at all. But if I were to be the guy to say where they fit, that seems to be where they would fit for me, right? Yeah. Again, you kind of have the beer tie-in. And then, honestly, think about this, Zachy boy. Hold on. Anybody at the AF1, if you're listening, get this on paper, too. Get Hulk Hogan a company. A team.
Get him a company.
Real American Beer, Orlando, or whatever, right?
Yep.
Versus Columbus Garage Beer. Head-to-head, battle of the beers, dude. You have an automatic, built-in rivalry, beer versus beer football teams. It sells itself. Anyway, but I don't think it's the UFL. That's my long way of, if you want me to put my hopium on it, I'd say AF1. I like AF1. I don't know. Anyway.
I like the new phrase hopium. You should keep that one in your back pocket. I don't think I've heard that one before. I've heard copium. Copium's a pretty normal thing. Hopium's a new element. You should hold that onto that tight.
I have a lot of hopium.
That's a very good football element.
I'm a Roughnecks fan. I'm well aware of hopium. I have a lot of it.
I love it. Hopium's a new element out this way, and look, this is something I've thought. My initial reaction was thinking interesting football team, but here's the thing: when you don't specify the football team, and trust me, it's not NFL. I know that some people immediately went to the NFL angle because there are diehard fans of this brand, and in the comments are like, "Oh, is it one of the Ohio teams?" It's like, no, because in the NFL now you can own a minority stake. That's new as of, I believe, last season, and that is not. They've already said that's not what it is. So that defaults you to any other alternative league that's in our space at that point. And the more I've thought about it, I'm like, it does take a lot. I would imagine you're putting millions upon millions into trying to get a UFL team is what I would assume they want to sell this for. You're not selling for pennies on the dollar. Like indoor and arena teams, you can sell for a crisp $1 million or $2 million and get in really easy, or buy a good stake in there for $1 million less investment if you're doing it with a group. So, that's where I agree with you. I think it's something along that line. Question is which one, because I think AF1 is definitely up that alley. I think a lot of people feel like the IFL because of its Columbus base. The Columbus Wild Dogs are a team, and I don't get into my little lore here with this. They were a team that was supposed to exist 5 years ago, and they've been sidelined ever since to be in Columbus, Ohio. And people were like, oh, well, maybe it's that. Maybe they bought into that and it's working, or I don't know. But I think that space more fits. We'll see. They've been pretty tight to the vest. Some people in our Discord, link in the description, have been trying to be a little cheeky and trying to see if they will spill the beans from the social admin. And the social admin's playing a pretty good defense game right now. So I got to give bravo to him. But, it opens up more of a conversation besides that. Like, what do we think the future of the league looks like next year? There's a lot of talk now. We've seen a lot of the attendance figures between, and I don't mean to bring it up because we've talked about this and you kind of hinted at it, between Houston's, the Memphises of the world. I'll also bring up, I think up until last week, Birmingham was kind of fighting some allegations as well. They should never be. But I mean, to be frank, that was something that was coming up too. And I think a lot of people are questioning, what is the solution? Because it's still a young league, but clearly we see moves in the background, these trademarks. So these 4 USFL old school trademarks, the Invaders, the Generals coming back, the Stars coming back, and I think it brings the question, what is the future? Do they commit to that expansion talk that not only the league hinted at, but David Deitman affirmatively said was happening?
I don't think it's happening next year. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. There's plenty of time for it to happen next year, of course. But I think for the fact that we have season tickets on sale in the season ticket package, they're talking about 10-week season, 2-week playoff, 1 week and 1 championship, right? To me, that kind of tells me I don't think we're going to see expansion next year. But I do think if we get into, what would that be, season 4 of the UFL, I think that's when we start seeing some more teams, and then we start expanding beyond that. And that's where, as we look at the Tom Brady's of the world, if they're going to buy in, I think that stuff maybe does get announced before next season, but it's not included in next season. It'll almost be a way to get people hyped up about next season. And as I've talked about in the past, anytime you can talk about the future, it creates a little bit of legitimacy for the league. For anybody that's worried that this thing's going to go away, well, now we're already talking about season 3 of the league, plus potential or maybe confirmed expansion for season, the next season of the league, season 4. Now we're already looking ahead of time, and maybe you get into a season 5, season 6, so on and so forth. It'll be interesting, but I don't think we're going to see any changes next year. I think we see the 8 teams as we have them this year, the same next year. I think there's going to be effort put in to maybe turn some things around. Mm-hmm. And then maybe at the end of next season, you reevaluate. Now I'll point to again, and this is on me. I got to get on the phone with this guy, but we have a new ticket rep in Houston, local to Houston. That's huge.
That's a big, we've heard this recently too, that there's a little bit more focus on some hirings with guys that are from those markets. So I'm fascinated to see what your combo's like, because you're getting to talk with a guy that knows the city. And I think in theory should better know the population and what they're looking for and kind of listening to their needs and demands. Right.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing this beyond Houston as well. So we have Houston, now Birmingham, which we talked about up until last week. Things were looking a little soft in Birmingham. And that's, I agree with everybody that's in the comments right now. Scheduling impacts a lot of that, right? Mother's Day in the morning. Come on, I get it. Right?
100% was a failure in multiple regards. That one isolated game, I am full stance. Him and I are the first ones that will say it was a failure in that regard. We know that market can come out, but the league has been needing to do better. And I think that was a good move too. Again, they hired a local person there as well from the Barons, mind you. So, and if you Birmingham guys that are there, if you like how the Barons have operated or any personnel from there, I think you might get a little bit of flavor of that. So keep that in mind. But
So James, actually, as we're recording this, James put out his article about Tom Brady and his potential interest. So we could dive into this a little bit more than maybe we anticipated. And so I don't know if we brought this up as we were talking about this, but just to kind of piggyback off of some of the reports about Tom Brady being interested in the league, it looks like he's pretty interested in getting a team in Oakland. And, it kind of makes sense, right? Because now he's part of the Raiders ownership group. You have that Oakland team, which we saw earlier this year with not even the major, the MLS. It was another soccer league in the United States. What'd they get, like $30K in that stadium? Right?
Yes. I'm going to double check. I'm pretty sure it's the USL you're talking about, which
That
they're not
it is,
even
yeah.
like, which is the league. Yeah. Oakland Roots SC, which, yeah, they played a game out there, showed out. And I think that's what the lean is. And I'll let you keep going after this, is that, Oakland keeps being brought up too, because on the positive side, it's an abandoned sports market. The NBA left for San Francisco. The NFL left for Las Vegas when nothing came to fruition. The questions are you going to play in the Oakland Coliseum? Because it is getting old, but it is, on the flip side, an NFL-ready, football-ready stadium that has hosted in the past. So
I mean, if it gets you in the door cheap, and it will, Zach, it might be free. They might pay them to put a damn team in that city. At this point, that city needs something. They've lost. There's no major sports in that city anymore, if I recall, right?
I mean, let's say USL. The A's are leaving for Vegas. They're currently playing in Sacramento. So I mean, do the Warriors play? Well, the Warriors in the Bay, but here's the thing with the Bay. The original Oracle was in Oakland, so they moved it to San Francisco proper, from what I understand. So it is a Bay team. Oakland is the Bay, but it's not. It's the way I best have equated this. It's almost like talking about boroughs in New York City, like Manhattan's New York. But like, I've talked with someone this past weekend, funny enough, from New Jersey, who talked with New Yorkers, and like, well, Manhattan's New York. But like, if you bring up Long Island as New York, well, someone might get into a fight with you over that, because that's to them not truly New York. So like, that's where it gets, like, there's the Bay, but there's San Francisco, and Oakland's a different part of the Bay. So it's like San Jose. It's a really wide area. The Bay is very vast. So there's very flavors. So like, Oakland is a pride thing. Like, it's still kind of there, but it's not, it's not Oakland's thing anymore. You know what I mean? Oakland's a pretty decent sized city too.
Yeah.
So,
well, and you potentially create a situation where you have a fan base, a ready fan base like the Battlehawks, that are going to show up just to show, hey, you took away our sports and we're still here for them. So, you know what? I'd love to see it. It does sound like, if Oakland isn't the play, Tampa Bay is still an option. So maybe we do see the return of the Tampa Bay Bandits. In addition to the trademark stuff too, just to kind of circle back a little bit.
yeah.
Just because they're renewing trademarks doesn't really mean much. They need to own these things so somebody else doesn't own them and have an Oakland Invaders or a Tampa Bay Bandits.
And something the NFL learned too, and we'll pull an experience from UFL and XFL's past with the Oilers. There is value in holding on to a mark like that and like merchandise, selling it, or using it for our properties. Like, I'll be frank, there is an audience out there like myself or yourself where like, I wouldn't mind buying some more Stars or Generals merch. Honestly, the Invaders are a great brand. I had an Invaders t-shirt for the longest time. It just, wore out. But like, these are old, like, nostalgic brands. People will buy this stuff if you're finding this super fan crowd like you're getting, and it's not bad to sell it. So like, it's good to hold on to it. And if you do future expansion, you can sell those brands. Like, there's a lot of benefits to holding on to these marks or transferring them under the new company name. So, but hey, the Bandits and Invaders seem to have some traction at least. So curious what's going on with there. But like, that's part of the whole movement thing. Like, the league wants to sell these if they can, but I think they also want to expand, because here's the other logic. Not only do you get a new fan base, but like new fan base for tickets, but also remember, it's a TV driven league. If you have a market that's more enticed with television, ideally you are, in theory, increasing some television numbers by adding new markets. So I think that's part of the rub too. The Oakland one, I think their rub is like what we're talking with St. Louis, which, abandoned fan base, is a market that, is a larger market. It's in the Bay Area market. So you get like a top 10 TV market in the country in your pocket, which is good for advertisers. They want to hear about that. So, and it moves you West Coast. So you have some base out there too.
Close to Fox HQ. The
Not
only
relatively far away. It's Western California, but it's still California.
The negative is going to be the taxes, but I feel like you could strike a deal with the local government to get some tax breaks for the fact of you're bringing something to this city. You're filling a stadium that's just sitting there decaying. You're potentially bringing people out of their houses, and maybe after their game, they're going to go eat dinner somewhere. You're getting people to spend money. And to me, there is a benefit there. Now we get into the labor laws and the this and the that, and how much does that impact? I don't know. That might be too much of a headache for them. Plus, then we get into the travel of it all. But, does a Seattle team come back? Mm-hmm. Again, not next year. I don't think it's happening next year. I don't even think it's happening the year after. But if it does, okay, maybe travel. Because I think as you expand, if they really want to stick with this XFL style hub system where all the players in one location, I truly feel like they should at least break that up into 2 hubs, whether it's a West Coast hub and an East Coast hub or a North and a South hub, right? Like spread the wealth. Maybe put one in Michigan and Arlington, right? Now now at least you have some of the players in both the locations get some of that goodwill going. The things that really matter. Although I still think they should just be in the cities, but I understand why they're not.
Yes.
I still don't think it saves that much money.
Of course. Yeah. And I think that, like I said, I feel like they're trying to, how do we not bail on a market yet, but also find a way, kind of like what they did with Memphis and Tampa Bay, where you remember when they switched up that market, they're like, well, Tampa wasn't doing as great with the metrics. So we decided to flip it because we felt like Memphis had a lot of interest and we had a partner right away, and how we talked about back in the day, Fred Smith was pushing hard to get this back. How much he's involved anymore, TBD, but it did push them to go to Memphis. That was the thing. They had investment from the community and from a community leader. Here, what's interesting with this situation, reading in again, kind of the column that James just put up, and not totally surprised actually, given the fact, remember, Tom and Fox directly connected 1-to-1 here on broadcasting and a lot of their stuff now. Part of his 10-year deal with broadcasting rights included a clause to possibly apparently be right in front to own one of these teams. Mm-hmm. So that's one part of the incentive as to why he might consider pulling the trigger on this and getting in early, is because he already has a fast track to possibly getting it. What that ties to, how much he gets in passes on getting in, is I think what's curious. But what I think Fox is thinking here is if they are committing and are serious about this growing, what better way to get serious and to prove to people that you are having people that are interested than having one of your own and one of the most recognizable men in sports who now apparently owns a minority stake in a football team in the NFL, mind you, own outright possibly or mostly one of your own football teams, which I also think enters the question, does the NFL get curious about ownership of 2 football leagues? And I don't know if that does happen or not. Maybe it's because it's minor. That's what I think would be an interesting take if he pulls the trigger and talks to Fox. Does the NFL care? That's the deal.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do. And honestly, again, I think it's kind of smart if Tom Brady goes in with an Oakland team. He's got part ownership of the Raiders. Again, minority stake, but nonetheless, right? You kind of could build your own pipeline to your NFL team. Although it's not officially there, he's on the ground with both of these situations. You see a guy, hey, you know what? Let's bring him over here. He's going to take the deal to jump to the Raiders, right? So, I mean, it opens up a new way of thinking about the relationship between the NFL and the UFL, to where, you get more situations like this. Almost don't even need an official partnership. Also, I'll just add, this isn't out of the ordinary for Fox. I've seen this with Fox a lot, where Fox personalities buy in to what Fox is going on, because I believe some of the Fox personalities also have bought into NASCAR, which is pretty heavily featured on Fox. And so, again, this is just not out of the ordinary, if you ask me. Glad to see it. Hope to see it. We were hoping to see it with A-Rod, with the Generals way back when, but who knows? Maybe those conversations are still happening. Good things take time. That's speculation, right? Of course. But
darn right. Actually, it's curious with the A-Rod deal. It makes you wonder if he also had a clause to fast track into something like that. Because A-Rod, reminder, he's a Fox employee too for Baseball Night in America. So that is another one to kind of consider. Funny enough. Speaking of A-Rod, who else both him and Tom showed their faces on? The Indy 500, which Fox hosted this year as their first year under a multi-year deal with IndyCar to broadcast the 500 along with the entire slate of races. Why does this matter, you may ask? Well, first off, Memorial Day weekend, and I'm going to be thrilled to tell you I went to the race because it's the great spectacle in racing, and it's an Indiana tradition like no other. Wonderful time. You ever been to the 500, or if you even are any curious to go racing and check out a race, you should go. But
So,
I see
real
you
quick,
pausing. I'm curious. So real quick.
There we go. My battery died on my other camera, so there we go.
Might need a
We'll come into this. So, Zach, I must know. Did you go to the Weenie 500?
I missed it. I came in on Friday and I landed just as they finished. I'm not joking. 30-minute race. You actually had one of the Wiener mobiles blow an engine on the backstretch, which was hilarious. Like, what ended up, I watched it, and sure enough, the Chicago dog, my pride and joys, leading down the front stretch and loses to the Slaw dog in a slipstream pass.
The worst
Hilarious.
dog of them all, by the way.
The
Who the
slaw
hell
dog.
eats a slaw dog? They talking about the South. Maybe Texas isn't the South. Some argue that, but a slaw dog.
Yeah, I mean,
outta here.
I've heard of the slaw dog. I actually had to look up only one style of hot dog because I was curious, because they had the 6 of them were, you had the Chicago, the New York, the Sonoran dog, which you and I are both very familiar with. You live in out back this way as well. You also had the Kansas City, you had a chili dog, and the last one was the Seattle style. I was like, what the hell is Seattle style hot dogs? And so I
want to make a joke, but I'm going to look it up.
So a hot dog topped with cream cheese, often with additions like caramelized onions and sauerkraut.
That's close to the joke I was going to make with the cream cheese on there and all, but okay.
Sounds
all right.
new, sounds newer. It says the Seattle dog originated from a bagel cart in Pioneer Square in 1989, which go figure, there's where the cream cheese came from. So.
Yeah.
But
It's probably good, funny enough. It actually probably ain't bad.
Seattle's on my list of places I want to visit next, and that will be a thing I try. And I'm probably going to like it for no reason other than it's like hot dog meets other food. So, But anyway, to wrap up, I missed that out. And they did have the Weenie Mobile in the parade on Saturday. And then Sunday, you have the race. And so we're watching the race. It's a big event. And honestly, really big deal, honestly. Brady's out there, Gronk's out there, A-Rod and Jeter announce and start the cars to the racers to the cars. And Fox did a great job. And I rewatched the broadcast after the fact at home. Long story short, though, I was wondering, what are the ratings for this event, given that Fox promoted the living hell out of it and did way more than NBC did? And sure enough, they killed it. And it scored a 7 million average viewership, which by that standard, it's a 17-year gap since the last time it met that number in 2008. But here's the other kicker, and this was something I was wondering. So if that number's big, and we look at the TV schedule, would the same effect as such as the Preakness, like on NBC, pull good numbers for the UFL event the next time? And sure enough, even with the late start, it did. It pulled in a whopping 1.4 million practically average with a peak of 2.6. So great lead-in example once again. For a week, that was really good ratings-wise. Yes, a little bit of a dip on Friday night, but ABC pulled in just under 1 million itself for their broadcast. And the only asterisk would be the rain called off game in terms of broadcast for Memphis and Arlington.
Which is a shame because we could have probably had 2 games around 1 million. And then the Indy 500. That rain delay pushed it to be basically another simultaneous start as we had, what was it, the previous week where we had 2 games at the same time. So we had that again this weekend. Both fine games, don't get me wrong. But it's a shame. But still, nice to see the good viewership. I'm always worried on a holiday weekend. Friday makes sense. Friday always makes sense. People are going out Friday, this and that.
Yeah.
Indy 500 one, that makes sense. You got a great lead in. But to see Saturday games, people could be out at the beach. People could be out grilling. People could be out doing a million things. But we still had nearly 1 million, 1.2 million peak at least,
Yeah.
Tune in to the Birmingham, Michigan game. And, I'm happy with that. I'm sure the league's happy with that. We know when I say major, but like NBA, MLS is always the example I'll draw back on just because they got such a huge money rights deal recently. And when you compare the ratings to the UFL, they're not drastically different from each other.
No.
For everybody that's doom and gloom about, oh my God, with the UFL and the TV is different. Although live TV is different than TV, if that makes sense, as far as like on demand. I would say more people are probably watching this live than on demand, whereas maybe a sitcom, people might watch it live, but there's going to be a huge chunk that watch it on demand.
No,
I
sure,
understand that, but it is a little bit different. Pulling in a milli, never mad at that. As we head into season 3, which again, Zachy boy, if we can get that damn season 3, which it feels like we're gonna,
It seems
they're
that way
collecting
now.
the money. I'm talking to people to get my money for season tickets, so it better. I mean, this will be the first spring league to have 3 seasons since the original USFL back in the 80s. That's once we get into season 4, season 5, we're in
man.
uncharted territory, baby.
That would be a massive milestone to cross. And honestly, if you can have any upward movement in ratings or things like that, and finally some stability and movement where it's not like crazy chaotic behind the scenes talk about changes in office position, it'd be a win. And I think it's what hope is for next year. It's been a year of just kind of like, I think almost biting nails in a way, but it does seem like they're still committed, which if that's the message, that's good. That means they still feel there's a optimal place for this product, but they have to put the work. We've talked, they have to put the work in to do that. We'll still be committed, but you got to get new people besides us in the stands is the deal, or retain those people, which they already know the message. I'll tell you though, great games to have if you're talking the ones that we're banging in terms of like high quality football, nail biters, Stallions, Panthers, it feels like, Stallions definitely have our number, but it always feels like a good game. This one was down to the wire, who had the ball last and who was going to get a stop. And that was a good contest in ABC. Meanwhile, Houston and DC, you've got Houston trying to hold on to a win. DC, sure, they had to flip out quarterbacks because, yes, you're not playing for that seeding, but it's still a good game. They rallied 12 points off in the fourth quarter, made it a really close one. That's the type of game you want coming out of a big national audience like that you hope stays and is kind of curious, So good stuff there. The hope is that you keep on hammering that home. You can't always do lead-ins, we've learned, but anytime you can is a win for it because you can get some ratings, you can get a new audience possibly looking at you and maybe try and see if you win some people over with your product. So that was a good example of a good ratings weekend.
And just imagine this. At peak, 2.6 million people saw America's team, the Houston Roughnecks, doing what we do best, and that's beating the number 1 seed. I'll tell you what, in the past, we've beat champions numerous times. We've beat the number 1 seed probably a few times.
Are you saying that your team is the seal of approval that you're crowning a champion this year?
No, I'm telling you, next year we're going 12-0, baby. This is the progression that what I needed. So, okay, just think about this. Between last year and this year, we're 400 times better.
That you are. That
you know
absolutely
what?
are.
And think about if we're 400 times better than we are this year, next year. That's over 12-0, baby. That's over 12-0, baby. Oh, my God. Get me started. I am so ready. Don't move this team. We're about to win championship after championship. And after next week, we're going to get there. Oh, my God, after next week.
Hey, you know what?
This week.
Credit to your guys' new staff and with Will Lewis as general manager, because I will say it was nice to see your guys' squad return to a competitive nature where, it's not feeling like I'm waiting to see what happens every week. It is feeling like the Roughnecks are on the right path in a way. So it's good to see. I'll give you props. It's just not going to be this year beyond week 10, but, for another time.
Just
for
wait.
another time.
Playoff Saturday. Oh, my God, what are the Roughnecks doing running on the field? Next thing you know.
Replacement team.
Yep. We're going to bully one of the 4 teams out of playing.
Oh my goodness.
Give us your spot. It's like stealing someone's lunch money. We're going to hold them all upside down. Anyway.
Man. Let's tell you what. Let's dive in. We got one more week of regular season to go. And hey, it is going to be a doozy because I think these are tune-up games. You know, I think that we did kind of see a little bit of that last week as well. But I think we're going to get a little bit more of that too, especially with one of our matchups being a double up in terms of week 10. We play each other again once more here. Only this time, the week 10 matchups at home, and then they, no matter what, are flipping to the opposite opponent's home field. So let's go into this, shall we? Let me get the slate up for this week as we're going to go, as we usually do, Friday through Sunday for week 10. So kicking off the Friday night, and I'll tell you what, this is quite the Friday night affair. Not going to lie.
Hell yeah, it is.
And I know the seeding changes it, but I'll tell you what, these two, I imagine, are still going to play hard. They're chippy against each other. They've always been chippy since the XFL 23 days, which is the Battlehawks going to DC. It's a DC home game on a Friday night, so that's going to be a great atmosphere, I feel like, in terms of getting the crowd rowdy. Yeah, I got a good sense. Not only I think you're going to see people hopefully tune out in, but also turn out in what should be, yes, while nothing's at stake, should be, I think, a fun contest. I think these guys are going to throw some curveballs to maybe not give away the playbook on what they're going to do for the week later for those championship series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this to me is probably the toughest game for me to pick all this week. And and even in reality, I had to double check my picks list. I still have the tab open on my phone, and this is the only game that I haven't had a pick on. But I think I'm ready. All
right, I'm ready.
Friday night, you already said it. Friday night, last home game of the season for DC. I think that's going to give them the edge. One, we've already saw DC is an MFer when it comes to comebacks. They will find a way to get back into a game. We saw it last week. Unfortunately for them, they were trying it against the Roughnecks, and the Roughnecks aren't giving away no game, Zachy boy. Who would come back against the Roughnecks in such embarrassing fashion to us? Nobody. I don't recall one time this season where the Roughnecks blew a huge lead, but I'll tell you, they did not do it last week with the Defenders. And the Defenders, you know what? I think, though, that they do have a little bit of mustard in the tank, if you will. The Battlehawks are they are a scary team. You can think what you want. You can say, oh, it's rigged. It's this or that. They want the championship in St. Louis, with St. Louis in there. But you know what? I'll be honest. After they had their quarterback problems earlier in the season, I kind of wrote them off a little bit. Max Duggan, he's doing what he needs to do. They're getting on the winning side of things, and you can't really argue with that. But I think DC wins this one. Maybe as a preview into my pick next week, I think we're going to get a flip-flop. I think whoever wins this game loses the playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my mind will change after this game. Maybe my mind will change as we get closer to the actual playoff matchup. But I think DC wins this game. And I guess by proxy, that means as of right now, I think the Battlehawks will make it to the championship. As of right now. We got a whole episode next week, Zachy boy.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to talk completely, almost have to throw the playbooks out in a way, because this will be a weird one. But what I did notice in week 9, I think will continue and maybe even more be emphasized in starting with Friday night, is the quarterbacks, I think, will be managed the most. Because of the roster sizes, you can't really move too many, especially players out. You do have some room, but remember, these are still restricted down to 50-ish and man roster, so you can only have so many activated on game day, and you only have so many positions open to you on game day that can kind of swap in and out as you please. So the quarterback's really going to be the one I think that they're going to be keeping an eye on. So I think you should expect a lot of Mike DeLeo over in DC. Honestly, I'd be shocked if they even last beyond a quarter with Jordan Ta'amu if they start the game with Jordan. So yeah. I think even less than last week. I think they'll do maybe like a quarter to get him warmed up and kind of just out there like a preseason game. And then they'll let Mike just handle and control and have the keys the entire thing. barring injury, of course. Same thing with St. Louis. I feel like they'll do a similar deal. I think you'll see a ton of Brandon Silvers. We did see a lot because of a blowout last week, but I think he hits the field a lot. And I think it's going to be, you'll see a lot of similar discussion as we go through this list of scheduled, just talk of games, sans maybe non-playoff teams. So, yeah, I expect a lot of Brandon Silvers. I liked what I saw with DeLeo last week. So even with that being a factor, I did lean DC. I do lean DC. Now, credit, I'll give you St. Louis fans out there a bone. I did rank him the best team in the league this past week. So I will throw you out there that. I just feel like DC's got their number right now, even with the squad that they're going to put out there. So to be determined, could go off. And, I'm not fully against that Brandon Silvers comes out and either balls out or he's the other side of Brandon Silvers, because there's the gunslinger Brandon Silvers that is shown up and shown his face before and does not always have the cleanest of games. So that could always put it on edge too. Give me DC in this, and I think it'll be higher scoring than most people believe. And I think it's also going to be competitive till the end. Gonna have a fun game on Friday night. Doesn't matter as much, week 10 that's cooking and preparing you for the main course that is the week next. So stay tuned for that. On the rest of the docket, kicking things off and leading into Saturday. So we have 2 Sunday games this week, actually. Interesting. One Saturday game, and this one is going to be your guys. You're heading over to the final Ford Field home event of the year, guaranteed, again, by the way. Houston heading to Michigan. And, I think with all the talk about Bryce Perkins, his ankle issue and some injury issues, Danny Etling's been actually really serviceable in the last 2 games he's been out there. Why risk again, unless you feel like you want to at least get him a few reps to kind of get in the rhythm? Why risk your superstar when you know that the most important game of Michigan's season, and arguably Michigan's franchise rebirth, is the next week, since they have never been able to beat Birmingham on the other side? Danny might as well start again. I don't see any reason to try and whip out Bryce early.
Yeah. Well, and it's ref's law, the game part 2. Let's just not mention, we need to get our revenge on Danny Etling just a little bit. Everybody was so hopeful in that other week, but now we're coming a little bit more prepared. And you know what? Enforcers of justice, Zachy boy. We saw it last week. We're going to see it again. We're keeping these seedings. We're here to fix the seeding problem in the UFL. It's like It's Always Sunny. The gang fixes the seeding problem in the UFL. You know what I mean? So that's us this week. We're coming into that game. Home game, away game, it doesn't matter. We're getting it done. And you know what? We're going to give Michigan a little bit of a spanking, and it's a good thing. It's what they need. If they want to beat the Stallions, they need what's coming to them this Saturday when Houston mops the floor with them. I don't even need to say the name right. They're going to be the joke of the league after this week. But they're going to go into that game in Birmingham the week after, and they're going to say, they're going to be ready. They're going to readjust some things after what Houston does to them. And there ain't going to be a close kind of comeback like DC had. No, my friend. It's going to be what they call a good old-fashioned blowout. And so I hope there's 12,000 fans there. Just like there was 2.6 million at the peak episode to see America's team beat the number 1 seed last week. I want a record crowd in Michigan to see Houston wallop their team. Just take them out. Now, we just need to get Coach Runs out there. We just need to have him stop mogging the players on the sidelines.
Coach Run.
That's all we need. That's all we need.
We're going
to be good. We're going to be good. But no, I'm calling it the Roughnecks, baby. Hey, you know what? We're so close. 500. We're so close to 500. And for all the people that are saying, the Roughnecks are going to get relocated, this is what we're doing. We're going to win. We're going to win, baby. 500. Relocate that. I don't think so.
Put a little hope into fans that things are a-changing is how I view
if you
it.
will.
Yeah. now, I will say great confidence I just had because I'm checking the tickets here while we're at it. Anytime the teams in the league add more rows into the stadium, it's always a good sign tickets are selling well. So they did just add on like 5 additional rows on the Michigan side, like for every section available. I like it. I like it a lot. That's what I want to see. Get that record for the modern era broken because trust me, the team's good and it's fun football over in Ford Field right now. Now, speaking of that game, I'll refocus this. Look, I look at the Roughnecks. Don't get in your own way. And I don't want to see a stat pad game that Jalen McClendon had. 310 yards was great until you look that he had 50 passes for 30 completions last matchup. You playing from behind. I mean, let's be honest. It wasn't close until it was really at the end. So just being fair. You gotta start out hot. You can't get in your own way. It's as simple as that. Even with the backups in.
Bing bong. I'm back.
Hey.
We're still recording.
Anyway, yeah, Danny Etling's been playing really solid. I mean, honestly, it makes you wonder, how severe the injuries are. If they have to ride with him, it gets more repetitions and time on tape with him to get used to the offense and being the guy again. If not, though, you save for Bryce Perkins. Also, want to shout out, and it was great the UFL and others in the league circles shouted this out. Siossi Mariner is the leader in reception yards on the Panthers, quietly having an impeccable season for the team and has really been a star with the roster this year. Watch to see if he keeps on rising up and helping his case for maybe like an offensive player of the year not, because that's something I think is in line for right now. Remember, MVP and offensive player generally get separate awards. I think he's making a case between him and, like, say, Jacob Sailors. So fascinated to see if people recognize that or not, too. But great year with him. But, yeah, look, Houston's got to be able to start fast if they want to have a chance. Personally, I think Michigan cruises to a win here. Ref slaw be damned. We get the ref slaw this week once more. Who knows? Maybe we'll have an off week. And then we tune up. And this time, we'll take it to Birmingham. I hope to God.
We're 1 week away, baby. We'll find out.
I'll analyze post this decree. It's got to happen.
Yep.
The lords above have to help me for once to get the monkey off their backs. That is a horse instead of a monkey.
Oh, man. Well, Sunday, as you mentioned, we have 2 games on Sunday this week. First game up, we got Renegades heading to San Antonio. So at least San Antonio, they get to end out the season with a home game. They have one less home game than everybody, but at least, you know what, they get that last game of the season. It's also on ABC, so you're probably going to get some pretty decent viewership if things stand true with how we've seen things work with ABC this week. I mean, this is 2 teams, no playoff hopes. So I do think there is the potential to have a very fun game here. This is where trick plays, I think, will be aplenty. We've seen San Antonio hasn't shied away from it. The Renegades, will they shoot themselves in the foot or not? I mean, we'll see. I think call me crazy. I think the Renegades are going to win. Half of me still want, I don't know. I'm actually torn on this. I think the Brahmas could win this game because of how the Renegades just seem to ruin it for themselves a lot of the time. Right? I'm just going to pick the Renegades. Now, this is coming after a 4-0 week that was coming after an 0-4 week. So I don't know which one I'm getting this week. But I'm going to say Renegades right now. I do think Stoops is going to go in there. He's going to get that win. And something that we haven't talked about, right? So we're seeing Wade Phillips. He hasn't stepped down. He's on a leave of absence. We don't know if he's going to return next year. There was rumors that he might return this year, but, I mean, this is the last home game of the season. And we haven't really heard him much on that front, so I'm going to say no. I'm going to assume he's probably going to step down from the role permanently in the offseason.
It feels like that. It does feel like that.
I wonder if we're going to see Stoops is not that he's old, but I mean, he's got money. He's won his championship. Maybe didn't have the greatest season this year. Is he going to come back next year? And I don't know, maybe those conversations are happening. Maybe they're not happening. But I know that if I'm having this thought, there's probably people on the team that are having this thought, and they're probably going to want to win it for him. considering they lost it for him on numerous occasions this season. I think they're going to go out there and try to win it for him. Will they be successful? I don't know, but that's my pick so far.
Maybe just a little bit. And keep in mind, this, I think, also is your final audition if you're Peyton Party to say, hey, if this happens, which again, it certainly feels like Wade's moving on after this year for health reasons, I think, to settle down just based on how the year's gone. This is your final audition to say, hey, I can lead this next year, that you don't need to look for another coach. I can take the reins. I can make my own staff and roster, and we can build this ourselves with the current setup. That's really what you're trying to advertise, I think, to the league, because the league is the boss of all the head coaches. They have to make those decisions. And honestly, if you can show that it's easier for them to keep you, which it would, than say try and do another whole coaching search, they'll be happy, I think, to do that. But they gotta show some oomph at the end of the year and see what they got, I think, moving into next year. For Arlington, I just don't know. Bob, does he want to keep going? It seems like it's been frustrating sans a championship at 23. Like every year, it seems like we hear more and more about he's been annoyed at times about things and how they've played out in the 2 UFL seasons.
One of the greatest quotes from this past weekend, I won't repeat it, but Bob Stoops had some good quotes. OF was one of them. Oh, and the one about those are stupid effing rules. That was one of my favorites.
Sometimes it makes me wonder if he does actually read the rule book or if he just stumbles into every event and goes, all right, let's coach this thing up and just get out of there so he can go chill out somewhere and do his appearances or something. But no, I wonder, if he wants to come back, I think it's more that question. I don't think the league wants to change anything if they don't have to, and there's probably a case, well, if we finish 5-5, it's better than we've been ever under Bob Stoops since 2020. So, progress. That's what I would look at it if you're trying to spin it. Plus, you got young QBs in the wing. If you didn't have Louise, there's stuff. So I think you're trying to see maybe, and this is a theory I have with Arlington, they're not a playoff team. But, do you play a Holton Allers a more so for reps this game because it's the last one, and maybe you're not 100% that Louise will be your guy next year, and you want to see what you got right now, because odds are, and as we know, and I know it's not certain, these one-year deals, but let's be honest with ourselves, people, most of these rosters get re-signed to their commitments unless these GMs feel like either it's a brand new GM coming in like Houston this year and they just completely clean house, or they get comfortable, they like their guys, and maybe a few of them don't come back, but usually the key ones do. Yeah. So, if you're evaluating the quarterback position, odds are, unless they go to the league, you have a good chance of re-signing the guys you have, like Elaine and an Allers, to compete next year, plus whoever you sign if Louise doesn't come back. And you have the opportunity if you want to say, sorry, Louise, we've been appreciating your time, but we want to start young and move forward. So, this is a really interesting time because Louise is up there in years compared to the other QBs, and they do have 2 young QBs behind them, one that was drafted and picked up, the other has been with them for several years now. Do you commit to that? This would be a game to do it. It's the end of the season. You have nothing to play for. Great time to test things out for next year. Yeah. If you want to.
So who are you picking in this game?
I'm going Arlington, but I do think that the Brahmas pull out all the stops. Oh, yeah. And whatever's left in the tool chest, they're going to throw at them. Last time these two played, they played bookends. Week 1 and now week 10, completely different atmosphere now than it was then. And I think the San Antonio's got nothing to lose. Credit, they're locked in no matter what to being the number 1 draft position in next year's collegiate draft. They already have the loss to Memphis locked in, and Memphis already has a win above them. There's no way they can get it by tiebreaker. So no matter what, they're committed to being the number 1.
Which on that note too, I saw James confirm the other day. It looks like the collegiate draft is going to take place in July again this year, not next year, this year. So something to look forward to in the off season, kind of like right away. So always good to have that going. So right now we have one game where we differ, 2 games where we're on the same side. Yeah, I'm curious where this leads us in the last game of the week. Now, if we draw back, this was probably the biggest upset of the season. was the Showboats
Yes.
beating the Stallions, not only beating them in overtime after the Showboats looked like they weren't going to do much this season. They took out the back-to-back champions. Final game of the season, especially, the Stallions are looking at the seeding. After what the Roughnecks do to Michigan, they have a decision on their mind. Do they want to go 100% into this game? Because it won't matter. Win or lose, they're going to have that number one seed. Now, if Michigan wins, which they won't, but if Michigan wins and they lose, then it goes into some weird tiebreaker stuff.
Yeah, it goes into tiebreakers.
It doesn't really matter, sure. But, Skip Holtz likes to be, I think he's got that. Ego's not the right word. Pride might not be the right word. He's going to want that number one seed so there's no excuses on if the home field advantage mattered when they didn't, blah, 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 blah. So we'll see. But I still think the Stallions, be damned. They're not going to go into this game giving it half effort no matter what. I don't think so. I just don't see it. No. Not that team, not Skip Holtz. If anything, they might try some things out. We might see them rest some guys, but they're still going to go into this game to win it. Similar to what I mentioned in the previous game, I think that we're going to see the Showboats have a fun game. I think we're going to see them do some fun circus plays out there to do whatever they can to win, to make it happen again. But I think the Stallions are winning it this time.
Yeah, you know what has me kind of going on the same favor is, last week they played Michigan. And in the post-game locker room talk, I love how Skip embraced the whole narrative's been that we're locked in, we have a home game, we have nothing to play for. And he basically said, no, guys, we're going to make damn sure that they know we're the number one seed and we won the conference fair and square. And I think that is what they're basically setting out to do, is they're going to go out swinging, and they're going to make damn sure to say, hey, we won this conference our way. We went and won the slugfest. We get to host it by rules that were not designated as we didn't have the venue. They truly could host it. So I think they go out and play full force. Question is, I'm curious, how hard are you going? Sans maybe playing reps or not. I think Jamar starts the whole game is what I'm trying to allude to. And quite frankly, I think Jamar's your guy going to the playoffs. The thing is, they've been playing hot hand, injury hand all year. Jamar's playing the best football of his career right now. The man who was retired, got regrets about retirement and stayed around to find a spot, goes on the roster, somehow gets back up to playing, and he's playing the best football that we've seen him play in spring football. He looks like a completely different player right now, and I think that's what Birmingham needs, is someone to rally behind like that, and they are at the moment. Yes, there were some mistakes made against St. Louis, but you listen to Skip and them, and it feels like we had it. We just have to clean a few things up, and we definitely have a legitimate shot still to four-peat. So, yeah, I think they keep Jamar rolling. The hope is you don't hope for injury, but otherwise they have Alex Magoo lined up or Case Cookus ready. That's the brilliance of this setup, is they've had starting QB caliber all year that they can go to if they want to, in their back pocket and ready to go, that want to play for this team. But I think they walk away with a win. Memphis, again, it's similar to San Antonio, Jim Turner. I think you're playing to see if they want to do interviews for a job or not. And credit, Jim Turner's an unorthodox, out-of-the-box guy. It wouldn't be your typical go and hire an old vet coach or something. It's someone that, has been through the ringer and I think is trying to prove he's worth staying around. It's been a chaotic year. They got 2 wins and were close several times. So can you finish on a strong note? I think that's what they want to see. And can they get some QB competition going with some reps, whoever the 2 guys are that play, to see who's going to maybe be the guy next year. Dresser Wynn feels like he's the most, I'm going to be an option next year type of guy. And then beyond that, it's kind of hands up in the air between EJ Perry and Troy Williams. No one's really sure. And they played a few years now in the league. Who knows? But I think that's what you're doing. It's again, eval. You're just going to get the number 2 pick this year instead of number 1 out of designation. So I go with Birmingham. They're going to finish the job. And I think it's revenge. Remember, and also I'll go by my golden rule, as you know from last year's summer stock. Skip Holtz doesn't lose to the same team twice in one season. That has been a rule since 2022. You can look it back. It is 100% accuracy right now. I'm hoping I'm not jinxing it, but I did the same thing last year in St. Louis thinking I would jinx it, and they finished with a shutout. So he doesn't lose to the same opponent twice. I'm going to hold on to that card until it's broken. So I think he walks away. They finish 7-3. They lock up the USFL conference legitimately, and then they go to Birmingham next week to face what is, by definition, their rival in Michigan.
Yeah. Well, you better hope that I'm 4-0 again this week, because that'll make you 3-1.
Yeah, right. You are. Right, you are. And one other update before we get away from the games, thanks to the PR for the league dropping this. It is confirmed Mike DeLeo will be starting for DC on Friday night. So they are resting Jordan Teamu. He's the emergency QB. Max Dugan will get the start, but I would be shocked again if he plays anywhere beyond the second quarter. Expect Brandon Silvers to come in at some point and play for this. But no, Mike DeLeo is the entire time. They are definitely resting Jordan and making sure he's healthy so that their likely MVP quarterback, to me, is going to play healthy come June 8th. So, yeah, it's that type of week. Friday should be fun, though. Mike showed some potential against Houston, so looking forward to see what he's got too in the tank as well.
Hell yeah. Well, final week of the season. It's so crazy, Zach. I talked about this probably a million times during the season, but it feels just like yesterday. We had spring stock. We're a couple weeks away from summer stock. And next thing you know, we're going to be bored as hell because it's the offseason. Well, not maybe bored as hell, because we're going to have collegiate draft, and I'm sure there's going to be all sorts of talk about expansion and ownerships. And just like we had hoped. We were talking about USFL. We were hoping by season 3 of the USFL, we were talking about owners. Well, here we are heading into the season 3 of the UFL. We're kind of starting to kick off that discussion. So things are getting fun. Things are getting interesting. Great time to be a spring football fan. If you're out there poo-pooing on the league, shame on you. Tune in. It's fun.
It's a good time. Get ready. Get tuned up for the playoffs is how we're viewing it, really. And yeah, why not? And that's what I think is going to be most of the talk too, is, not only you're getting some games, but, you're going to hear plenty of discussion about the playoffs and what these teams are like looking forward to, and maybe some trends or whatnot. So it's a good time to jump in. If you kind of checked it out last week on the side, going out of some sporting events, come visit. Championship is right around the corner, and so is the championship weekend. And, so is our little trip to St. Louis once again in summer stock for the road to summer stock. Be ready for that. Still prepping. Going to be a great time leading into that week. We're going to be hitting the road early-ish in the week. Last we talked, it's looking like Wednesday the 11th, I believe, is when we're hitting the road, some point that day, and then we'll get there by Saturday with plenty of great stops on the way, heading to June 14th at 8 o'clock Eastern time for the championship. So plenty of stuff ahead. Otherwise, subscribe to us. What are you doing? If you haven't by now, hit the subscribe button, click the bell, builds morale, not only for you, but for us too. And you also get notifications when this show goes on, when we go live Mondays at 6 o'clock Eastern with Around the UFL, which, as we have every week, exciting interviews, and you get Jay Sternberger once a week, so that's always a fun time too, and power rankings and news, you name it. It's the week that was in the UFL. Finally, 10% off Royal Retro's USFL newsroom for that code. Save and get some sweet official UFL swag and AF1 swag if you want from a wonderful site, royalretros.com. Any other final thoughts here, finishing up our Memorial Day weekend episode?
I don't think so. I'm just saying, everybody watch out, because the Roughnecks are going to beat up the Panthers this weekend. Refs Law of the Game Part 2 is ending the way the Part 1 should have, which actually makes sense. If it's going to be Refs Law of the Game, I mean, one should win the other should win the other. Bing bong. It's like the opposites coming together, creating a whole. And then next year, again, when we win this weekend, we'll be 500% better than we were last year, which almost guarantees us just endless amounts of games when we're 500% better than we are this year. Next year, my God, that's 25 games in a row, Zach. That's 25 games in a row.
Look at you.
Oh, my God, that's 2 12-0 seasons.
Look at you.
And a win to start off the next one.
You're the Jeffersons. Moving on up. Moving on up.
To a deluxe apartment in the sky, baby. Don't you forget it. It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Guys, we'll catch you on Monday and also catch you next week as we preview the championship series of games. Definitely want to be around for that. And it'll be awards season for us. So we will make awards predictions for the season next week's episode of the UFL Podcast. You don't want to miss that. And we'll have that up for you too. So stick around. I'm Zach. He's the ref. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you Monday. Catch you next week. Have a good one.